Welcome to a new Real Estate Roadmap podcast with myself, Chris Cusimano. Today, I have a special guest. I'll introduce you to her in a second. Her name is Melissa Nash. And what I really like about our guest today, or Melissa, is that she is or was a real estate agent, just like most of the people listening here today. And she kind of pivoted her career into real estate investing, mostly with out of state rentals instead of doing the traditional house flipping that we hear so much about. And my question is A, is that accurate? And B, how did you go from being a real estate agent like us to, I guess, an investor, Melissa?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely accurate. That is how I got my start because I live here in Southern California and the math just doesn't math for me to get started in real estate investing. So I had to look elsewhere in other states. But my story kind of starts back a little bit. When I first met my husband, I was introduced to Rich Grandma. And I was like, why do you guys call her Rich Grandma? And the story is that she became a real estate agent in Los Angeles in the 60s, and she would sell a property to somebody, and then she would take that commission and she would go buy a single family rental. She just put 20% down and buy a rental. And her strategy was buy and hold. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if she had a strategy other than she was just buying these and holding on to them. And then by the time I met her, she had a really big portfolio and she was going on cruises, and her rental properties paid for her entire retirement. So she passed away before I even got interested in real estate investing. So I wish that I would have asked her so many questions and understood more. So in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, you become rich by owning real estate, and buy and hold is a pretty good strategy. So that was kind of in the back of my mind before I even became a real estate agent.
Okay, so how'd you become a real estate agent? Let's do the whole story of Melissa and how we came together. How did that happen?
Okay. So I'll do it really, really quick, but, basically, I had a business that we kind of sold and closed down after the 2008 crash, and I was like, "I need a career, I need something that is recession proof." And the business that I was in was not recession proof, and I went back to real estate again, and I was like, "I'm gonna become a real estate agent. I wanna learn how to become an investor like Rich Grandma." So I did the whole real estate course, became an agent, and I sat there at open houses and drove around and showed people houses, and I was like, "This sucks. I hate this." I was like, "I'm wasting my time." Like, I wanna work with people that are moving faster, quicker, and that are buying more. I was just, like, in it for, like, I wanted a more fast pace, and I didn't learn anything about real estate investing from real estate school other than, like, how to measure, how many feet are in an acre, and, like, how to do a cap rate on an apartment building. I was like, I didn't actually learn how to work with investors. So that kind of started my journey where I was like, okay, what do I want to do? So I kind of started to get into the commercial side of real estate. I was networking with people and connecting with people. And I realized that investors make quick decisions. And again, this was commercial. So these are big time investors, and they generally didn't work on the weekends. And I was like, okay, I like this because I'm sitting in an open house missing all the family stuff. Right. So that kind of, I was like, "Okay, commercial," and then I realized that, I mean, it was a long road for me to build clientele on the commercial side, and so I was like, "How can I do this and work with investors a little bit quicker and easier?" Do you want me to stop right there to see if any questions, or do you want me to keep going?
No, keep going. No. I'm loving what you're saying. I'm fascinated by. Oh, the reason why I'm fascinated by this in my particular case is I haven't really committed myself to the commercial space. I always stayed in my lane. I actually haven't committed to working with investors at all. However, last year, actually this time last year, I purchased a very expensive coaching course to help be a commercial investor. And as I'm in the process, I'm doing all the work. We finally get a couple potentially good deals. And one thing I didn't realize was, well, crap, now I need money to buy these properties.
Well,
Right. So I was like,
that's the whole thing about it, is because my selfish reasons for all this was also I wanted to buy the real estate. I want to be an investor. I want to be rich grandma, So it was like I need the clientele to make
yeah,
money so that I can buy the
correct.
properties. So then I was like, okay, what are the options out there? What can I afford if I did have the money to buy? And I was like, it's not California. it's too expensive. The math doesn't math. It's not landlord friendly. Like there's so many reasons. And so then I was like, well, I have family that lives in other states and it's really affordable there. So I started researching how to invest out of state, and I started working with different mentors and different forums and going to different real estate events. And I kind of figured out that, okay, I can invest out of state, but again, I don't want to create a second job for myself, which is flipping or wholesaling. I wanted to buy properties that were as easy as possible, already renovated with a local property management. Like I didn't want to do any of that stuff. And so it for me, it was about team building and like finding people that I can trust and where are the opportunities. So my very first property that I bought was in Birmingham, Alabama. It was like I don't know, I think it was like a $60,000 property. It was already renovated, had a local property manager in place. Like I didn't have to do anything. And I still own the same property today, and it's one of my best performing properties.
Okay, so yeah, the question becomes, like you said it before, you have to get capital to purchase these things, these properties when they came through. In my particular case, I would find a property, and my solution was I reached out to a bunch of people I knew who would invest. And in my situation, and you can maybe coach me through it like you would coach a client through it, is I would do all this work. I'll have the whole spreadsheets and everything. It looks like a pretty decent deal. But once I did all that work, all that marketing, and all that outreach, plus all my regular real estate business, what would happen is the investors weren't interested in the property, or we get close to being interested, and then the seller of the property sold to someone else. And I was just like, man, I can't devote this much time to this.
Hmm.
But you had a different, you had I guess a different approach. My question to you is, once someone finds an investment property that they want to particularly pursue, how do they finance it? What's their best options if they don't have the money themselves?
Yeah. So, again, this is why, again, I'll talk about asset class. I'm talking about single family assets. I absolutely love single family for so many reasons. I think that they're the most risk free and the easiest to get into. They're the most affordable. That property I bought in Alabama, I was all in like $15,000, so that's like, okay, cool. Take it out of your
Yeah.
savings account. I had it. A lot of my clients will take a HELOC out of their primary and will put it to work. And in fact, that was like one of my very first clients. Well, after and this will kind of answer your question, but when I first started doing this, people are like, oh my gosh, how are you doing this? How are you buying properties in Alabama, 2,000 miles away? I kind of want to, I want to see what you're doing and maybe I want to do it too. And so my first client actually was not an investor. And again, going back to like most of my clients never consider themselves an investor, just like my husband's grandma. You don't think of yourself as an investor, even though you are, because it seems like such a big word. But she was like a teacher, and she was like, a client of mine that I knew from the real estate world, and I knew she was sitting on a bunch of equity. And so I was like, "Hey, I can help you buy some properties in Alabama like I did." And so for her, she was like, "Well, where do I get the money?" And I was like, "Well, you're sitting on a bunch of equity in your house." So she took out a HELOC on her property, and the thing is you just gotta you run the numbers so that you know that your return is gonna be higher and you have a strategy to pay off the HELOC. You don't wanna be left with a HELOC that's not paid off. And so we kind of formulated this plan for her, and she bought 3 properties in Alabama. Now, the cool thing about it is still to this day, she owns like 5 properties now. She would never call herself an investor, but she was actually able she literally has enough income coming in, she could replace her teaching salary if she wanted to with the cash flow. She has since stayed teaching because she's realized she actually loves teaching and she's doing it for herself now, not just for the money. But that's the cool thing about what I've been able to do and help over 2,000 people become investors who would have never been able to invest before. So yeah, so it's a little bit scary at first to go out of state. So it's definitely all about connections and people and systems. But to kind of answer your question is there are definitely steps. Like you have to have your financing ready, you have to know you have a budget set aside, and then you find the deal. Like, and again, we're talking about single family houses that are way more affordable. I mean, some of the houses I help clients buy are like $100,000 house in Mississippi. We're not talking about these big commercial projects.
Yeah, that was the thing when I was doing it. That was what they taught was, hey, instead of having one door, why don't you have 6 doors in one building? The problem with those 6 doors in one building, you're starting, like $2.5, $3 million bucks, right? as opposed to single family home. At least around here, you can possibly get one for about 500,000. So that you could rent out right away. So you're right. It really depends. You can't just jump into those big ticket items if you're trying to do it yourself, unless you do, of course, have the capital. My restriction was I had the capital, but through other people and also locked into other properties. It just wasn't readily available. And I realized for me personally, on that particular situation, I was like, I don't want to do all this work and then be beholden to someone else's decision. So I love your point that, just start with more affordable stuff that you can leverage yourself. Right. I mean, it just seems like common sense, but we don't do that. I have two properties right now. I'm in one of them actually, where there's tremendous amount of equity. And it's just sitting there. It's literally just it's not doing anything. Why not leverage it? And I'm talking to myself, by the way,
No,
you know?
absolutely, and that's the thing is, like, we just have to start small to get started. Sometimes yeah, sure, you wanna own a 12-unit apartment complex, that sounds amazing, but you start small baby steps, and also your risk is less with single family because you can sell it to anybody. You don't have to sell it to an investor. You can put it, on the MLS and sell it, and you can
Correct.
rent it out easier, and just the exit strategy, affordability. Single family goes up in value faster. It's more desirable for everybody, and then when the entry point is lower, so just get started. I've done a million things with my portfolio. I've sold properties, I've 1031 exchange properties, I've dipped into HELOC, and that's the only way I've been able to grow my portfolio is just getting started on that first one.
Yeah, and then you leverage the capital in that one into others, so on and so forth. Now,
Exactly.
one thing I wanna ask you, 'cause we don't have unfortunately, I wish I could have had you longer today, but we have about 20 more minutes or so, and the thing I wanna cover with you that would be beneficial with the audience, mostly real estate agents listening, is I teach, at least to my team, and I have a coaching course too, the coaching clients, "Just stay in your lane." And like, "What do you mean?" What happens inside of real estate, at least residential real estate, is that when someone's new into the industry, what happens is they get these clients that were pretty much passed on by the more experienced agents, and they are usually tenants, renters, and investors, right? Because the investment, if you're representing an investor as a real estate agent, that investor is not just using you. Chances are they also have a real estate license too. They're looking on their own, and they probably have like you're talking to a couple other people, and you're looking for this needle in the haystack that they're looking for. And when you finally find it, then it's not like it's an emotional thing. It's a very logical thing for them. For when you represent a family, they're looking for a very specific type of property, and usually you do two or three that you make offers on before you land one. Investors, like, they're just harder in my experience to close with. And you were saying, hey, I have solutions for that as a real estate agent. Like, this is how you can best find and work and manage investors. And I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah. So again, going back to so I've helped 2,000 people actually buy and close on properties out of state, and I live in California.
That's
So
awesome.
the system that I have developed is, again, going back to what I said, most people don't consider themselves investors. So teach them to be investors. Find your own clients. Teach them. We're not looking for the investor I mean, you can do this. I don't do this. I'm not working with flippers. I'm not working with wholesalers. I'm not a wholesaler. I'm not out there looking for the deal that are the cash offers and anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not competing with anybody. I am taking my network of people when I first got started, the people that I knew, and I'm like, "Hey, you should learn about real estate investing. Anybody can become an investor." And then my teaching to them got them really excited. They're like, "I can do this." Like my first client that's a teacher, she was like, "What? I can be an investor? I didn't know that. Look, she's got 5 properties now and can
Yeah,
replace her
love
income."
it.
So it's teaching them. So you can actually go find your people, teach them, and then they are your client. They're with you. So now you can handpick and find them deals. Now, I have built an amazing network and amazing program out of state that I get paid commission on. And this is part of a program and a course that I teach people. First of all, I teach them how to teach people to become investors and the education, because it's very different when you're talking about a single family analysis and we're looking at cash flow, appreciation, all the things. So we're learning how to run the numbers correctly. We're learning all the benefits of real estate, and then they're able to teach that to their network of people. And then it's like, great, you have this knowledge. Now, what about the inventory? Like, where do I get these properties? And so I teach agents how to find these properties out of state and get paid for it. And it's not just referrals. It's not just like, hey, I work for Keller Williams. I'm going to connect somebody with a Keller Williams agent. I'm going to get commission. It's not that. You're actually working with the sellers directly.
And you can get paid a real estate commission on that out of state?
Yes,
And that's very
and you're
interesting.
not
What would you
licensed. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna give you all my secrets.
Because now I'm like, maybe I need to stop being a real estate agent and do this. This sounds interesting. Yeah, I guess that is a perk too. You can invest in real estate without actually having a real estate license. You actually might be more free to do more things without it. Possibly, I just speaking out loud.
Well, yeah, when you work with a seller directly, there's no agents involved. So they're very happy to work with you and to pay you. So it's all about connecting and finding these people so that like at any given time I have access to about maybe 30 to 40 off-market properties that are ready to go for my clients. So I've built that up and this is what I'm teaching people how to do to build that up for themselves.
That's super cool. What would you say would be the biggest challenges that people have when they're doing out of state investments like this? Like, what's the major constraint, the hurdle?
It's usually just the confidence to do it. A lot of people just think like, "Hey, I need to drive by the property to make sure it's real." And it's interesting because like after COVID, we all got really used to doing everything online. So it's actually made my job a little bit easier because we can see everything that you would need to see. You're going to get inspections done and appraisals done and the property manager is there and they can walk through the house with you so some people have this fear of like, what if something happens and I'm not there? Well, unless you're a plumber or a handyman, what are you gonna do anyway? So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have, and that's the other piece of it is you need to have your team there that you can rely on, and that's part of what I teach people to do.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you see how everything you know, went digital, if you will, or remote, because in the real estate space, the residential estate space, I do so many of my buyer and seller consultations, just like this, kind of like what we're doing now. It's essentially a podcast, right? Because why not? You can, you know? It is also very convenient to them. Now I love it. Now we're talking about doing like out of state flips, not flips, sorry, out of state. These are called holds. You're holding them to rent them out. Why not in state? Is it because you were just happy to be in an expensive state, or what's the benefit of doing it out of state?
Yeah, absolutely. It's California. It's not landlord friendly here at all. The math just doesn't math. I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody to go buy a $800,000 house and rent it for 2,500 a month. They're gonna be underwater and they're gonna be backwards. Now, short-term rentals are different. I do own short-term rentals as well, and I do have some here in California. Completely different beast, completely different animal. But at the same time, I was shocked how many agents I talk to that know nothing about short-term rentals, that don't know how to run the numbers. I mean, that's also part of what I teach people too, because some agents are like, that's cool to help people out of state, but I want to help people in my state. And short term rentals are a huge thing, especially with all the tax benefits right now
Yeah,
with cost segregation and with the bill that just came out. And so, huge, huge benefits. And so, if you are the agent that is like the go to in your office for anything investment, you're like 1031, I got it. I know it. I know what the tax benefits are based on your income. If you are that person, are you kidding me? Like you're going to get referrals for that too, not just being an out of state person, but an in office person. And so that's really what I've been doing. Well, that's what I got into. But then I also learned by doing. I've done cost segregations. I've done 1031 exchanges. I've done it all. I've worked with hundreds, well, not hundreds, many lenders, hard money lenders, conventional lenders,
100
you
sounds
know,
cool.
thousands, millions.
Sure, let's
But,
go with it.
I've done it all. And not only that is I'm also through my teaching my clients, they're experiencing things. So I'm taking what they're learning as well. And that's what I've kind of bottled up. And I'm now for the first time, like kind of cracking the secrets a little bit. Like everybody's like, "What are you doing? How are you doing this? How are you making money? How are you making commission?" And I'm like, "I'm not telling. I'm not telling." It's been my little secret for 10 years. And finally, I'm like, "You know what? I'm going to create a program for agents and I'm going to teach them exactly what I've done and how to do it." And so that's kind of the new program that I'm rolling out come January, and I do have a waiting list for that program that I kind of started. But yeah, it's really cool and I'm surprised more agents don't do it actually.
So talk about your waiting list for a second. I'm curious. Is it a waiting list because you are one-on-one assisting people, so it's a time constraint, or is a waiting list as of just it's just a waiting list, you just haven't unlocked it yet?
Yeah, it's a waiting list. I haven't unlocked it yet.
Got
I'm
it.
still building it out, and I wanna make sure that as people are signing up for the waiting list, I'm talking to them to seeing what they want in it. Like, what you know what I mean? So I'm adding more as I'm talking to people, so I love the waiting list so that I can actually start engaging on it to really make this awesome. But at the same time, I've taken courses and I haven't finished them. Like, I
Yeah, we
you
all
know what I
have.
mean? Like, I don't wanna do that. I'm very action oriented, and so I wanna be very specific about how I'm putting this together to get straight to the point and get people, quick through this, but also, deep and informative.
Okay, so I actually want to talk this pivot a little bit before we wrap up because this is interesting. We're on the same wavelength here. We have courses and coaching and all that. And what I noticed in my coaching course, I have a whole thing laid out like a big thing. But what I learned is that people don't necessarily have to solve all the problems that that whole course provides. They just have individual sub problems, right? So what I've been starting to do is, and I don't know, about a half dozen at this point, creating micro courses in the course. For example, I know of 15 ways, between 12 and 15 ways that you could generate business as a real estate agent, right? Not besides the investor side stuff. And I started building micro courses on just each one of those things, as before it was just all packaged in this thing. Because of what you just said, you don't want to give people a lot of stuff that they don't necessarily need. The problem is you never know what each person needs, right? So
Yep.
what you're doing is actually very, very smart, asking around and kind of getting consensus. With that said, how is well, and you probably don't know yet because, or maybe you do because it's not ready yet. But how's your program laid out in regards to like
Yes.
structure?
Yeah, so I'm again back to action. I'm very action oriented and I want people to actually like do something. And so it's a video course. So you watch the video of me talking with slideshows. Then each slide or each, lesson or whatever has, you know,
An action step.
steps, an action step. Yeah, it's like do this and run. And then the biggest thing is actually this is my magic sauce. I'll tease you at this is so a pro forma is what you run numbers on. And I actually had an engineer build me a fabulous pro forma. And the pro forma actually sells the client because the pro forma, yeah, you're entering in like, the purchase price of the property, the rents, and I'm teaching you how to do all this. But then it shows the for profit centers of real estate. So and even I even have a tab on there that even shows inflation, like your money is losing value sitting in the bank. And so my pro forma, when you put this together and then you show it to a client and you do it correctly, and I just do it on a screen recording. So I just have a loop net or loop, whatever it's called, a recording thing. And I just Loom, thank you. And I just pull up my pro forma and I'm showing somebody a property and I go over it with them and I'm like, look, this is how much you're going to make year one. This is how much you're going to make in year 10. This is just cash flow. Let's look at appreciation now. Let's look at how much the tenant is paying down your mortgage. Let's look at what the inflation would look like, the value of your dollar. And I literally walk the client through it and they're like, done. It's a no brainer. I need that property.
Yeah, it's just education. It's just a
Yes,
knowledge game, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And
it's not
so
you saying it, it's the data saying it.
that's the cool thing. It's the data, and I'm lucky enough to, again, the spreadsheet, like, you go through it, but you need to practice it, and so that's, like, in the program, it's like, "Okay, let's plug it in. You plug in a property now. Let's test," you know what I mean? Like, I want people to get comfortable with these words, with these terms, and I like cap rate. I don't use cap rate. Like, I use cash on cash return, and why it actually speaks to an everyday person who's not an investor. Again, you have to break it down to, I say, like an 8th grade level because we weren't taught this stuff in school. So if you're bringing in your own people and you're teaching them how to be investors, break it down simple and basic. Like, we don't need to try to be all fancy here.
Yeah. No, I love it. So it sounds like the process for your training is they go on, they watch a video, you teach something, they do an action step, and then they get confident with what they're looking at, right? So now that this confidence is building up, then they can feel comfortable and confident going out and looking for those opportunities that are out there. Because if you look for the opportunities that were out, like I did it backwards, that were out there, and all of a sudden they came, I wasn't confident enough to know how good or bad these things were. So you kind of lose momentum. So you're right. You build the confidence first. And then with the confidence, you go out and get it, which is the exact opposite of how I built my real estate career. I just went and did things and learned through trial and error. I think
Well,
like a lot of realtors.
yeah, I mean, that's part of our journey. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes. I flipped properties. I flipped over 50 properties out of state, and I'll never do it again. I lost money, I made some money. It was a
Not
lot of
worth it.
freaking work. No, it's not worth it. And so now I'm like, I'll take these properties with, 10 to 12% cash on cash return all day long.
Yeah, I love it. I got I have to pick up my kids from the bus stop soon. So I'm gonna say the story and then I'm looking at the time. But I love this fascinating combo. I'm actually enjoying it a lot. I wish we had more time. But anyhow, the way I got into real estate was I was 19 years old in college, community college, and they had all those signs, "Won't be my house is cash" everywhere, right? I called all of them. Just said, like, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I want to figure this out. The college was not my thing. An investor took me under his wing. His name is Alex Sharf, and we're buddies to this day. And I flipped a couple properties with him. Well, I didn't make any money. I was working for free to learn. Anyways, but one thing I noticed and was that his wife was the real estate agent selling the property. She made just about the same amount of money commission than he did in the profit, if he ever did. And I was like, this flipping game's not all that great. Right? How much work we did and how much all that. And then his wife, and listen, being a real estate agent's hard, but she sold it and made the same amount. I was like, that's why I transitioned from flipping properties into just to being a real estate agent. Now, what I like what you're saying is you don't lean into the flipping wholesale thing. You teach people how to find properties that they're going to hold, have cash on cash, was it cash on cash what?
Cash on cash return. So yeah,
Cash
positive
on
income.
cash return. Yeah, positive income. I love that. So if people want to learn how to do that, or if real estate agents want to learn how to teach their clients how to do it and work with investors, how do they find you? How do they hire you? Where do they go?
Yeah, so go to my website. So it's www.hellomelissanash.com. And up at the top, you are going to see a tab that'll say for agents. So if you're an agent and you're like, hey, I want to learn how to work with investor clients and how to find investor clients, that is the program for you. So click on that. And again, it's a waiting list right now, but I will reach out to you to again. What do you want? What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to learn so that we can make sure that we're including everything? And if you're just like, hey, I want to be an investor, then I have a community that you can join, and there's tons and tons of free stuff in there. I just started the school community a couple months ago, and so I'm going to be building that out as well.
Love
Trying
it.
to get a bunch of people in there.
I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you for one more thing, and I'm putting you on the spot, so you have to say yes now, but you can deny me later if you want off air. But on Tuesdays at noon my time, most Tuesdays, I do group coaching with my coaching clients. I would love to have you as a guest to do a crash course for 40 minutes, talk about what you do, how you can help real estate agents. And of course, if they want to move forward with what you offer, they can do so then. Would you be interested in something like that?
Absolutely. In fact, I was actually putting together a kind of a training, just like a free training, and I already have the idea for you. It's
Love
literally
it.
after that training, you will go and find one investor client, and you will be able to work with them, like, after that training. So
Well,
we will
guess
do
what?
that.
I'm locking you in. It's going to be in January. I'm locking you in. It's going to be somewhere in mid January. And Melissa, I have to go get my kids from the bus stop before they walk home and kill me. But it was great chatting with you, and I'm definitely going to connect with you offline and get you for that course.
Absolutely. Thank you again. It was good chatting, and we'll see you on Tuesday
I'll
in
see you later.
January. Okay,
Yes.
bye.
Bye.